Let's give our praises to the Most High, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, which in the ancient Hebrew is the Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders of GMS, who taught us his truth by the Holy Spirit. Honors to the brothers risking their life and freedom to push the gospel. Peace and blessings to the elect, who will consist of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, who make up the lost 12 tribes of Israel, according to scripture and prophecy. The elect will be 1/3 of the Israelites, who in the last days are returning back to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah for salvation, while the 2/3 of Israel who don't seek the Lord in time be destroyed with America. And that's all according to prophecy. So we back with another lesson through the mercy of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah. This lesson is going to be titled Ultra High Processed Foods and the Mark of the Beast. What's the link? Ultra high processed foods and the Mark of the Beast. What's the link? So this lesson is, of course, inspired by the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah, in the Holy Spirit. So I seen a couple videos showing how processed and how toxic common American foods are. Foods that people consume on a daily basis. And I was thinking, why is everything so processed? Why is everything so toxic, so poisonous? So I started thinking on these things. And the spirit started to direct my thought process. And I got a background in diet, exercise, anatomy, physiology. And what I do understand is that people who eat ultra high processed foods, they become chemically addicted to those foods. For example, McDonald's, honey buns, hot Cheetos, foods are highly addictive. Not because they good or delicious, but people are chemically addicted to those foods. They highly processed and full of chemicals. And your body is not addicted to the food. You're not craving the food. People are craving and are addicted to the chemicals in that food. Just like somebody could be addicted to cigarettes or crack cocaine. People addicted to the chemicals in those foods. So I started thinking, okay, we know people become dependent, addicted on these foods, and they can't function without these foods. That's the next point. Those of us who eat a diet that mainly consists of whole foods versus those who eat a lot of high processed foods, we totally different people, physically and mentally. The toxins and the chemicals in those high processed foods, it disrupts normal body physiology. How your body break down foods, processed foods, even in the brain. Eating a diet high in processed foods, your brain release different chemicals and begin to function differently based off all those chemicals you're eating. And your brain is going to crave those chemicals, or you're going to have withdrawals. You can't function without it. And based off my understanding of physiology, which is my background, I understand that people who eat a diet high in processed foods, they have a harder time fasting and going without food versus those of us who eat a more natural, balanced diet with whole foods. It's easier for us to fast, and we have an easier time going without food for long periods versus somebody who eats a diet in high processed foods. They can't go too long without eating because their physiology and brain chemistry has been destroyed by these high processed foods, the chemicals and the toxins in them foods. So they can't fast, let alone go for long periods without eating. Physically, they can, but mentally, they're not capable. And what I was thinking, that people mentally can't go without these foods, they can't fast, they can't go for long periods, they're chemically addicted to these foods. I got to thinking about the hour of temptation in the mark of the beast. People's cravings and their addiction to the chemicals in these foods is going to cause them to get the mark of the beast, which is the RFID market chip. So I'm thinking, that's why everything is highly processed. Almost nothing is natural. It's to destroy your physiology, destroy your brain chemistry. So when they come around and force mandate the RFID market chip, the people are more easily controlled and easy to manipulate because of their addiction to these high processed foods. Literally sheep raised for the slaughter. So that's why everything is processed and it's so hard to eat healthy in America. Because people who hooked, addicted to these foods and the chemicals, they're easily controlled. They're easily manipulated. They gonna get that mark. The mark of the beast, which is the RFID market chip. So my bad for the long intro. And also, I asked AI some questions that I already know the answer to, which pretty much supports everything I said in the intro. So we're going to start here, the book of Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach, chapter 12, verse 10. Never trust thine enemy. I get this down there every lesson. Never trust thine enemy. We see what the Lord mean now, here in these last days. Who is your enemy? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. When iron rusts, when it starts, it get worse and worse. The same is true for Esau, the white man, and his wickedness. The deeper you look into this man and what he's doing and his wickedness, it get worse and worse. Even with these ultra high processed foods, you thought it was to make America, lazy. You thought it was to make people go broke, to destroy the youth. Now it's for you to get that market chip so you can wind up in the lake of fire. But yeah, never trust thine enemy. Now, let's get this first video. And it's titled For Everyone Who Has Eaten This. So check this out.
Makes me wonder if this used to be a real food or if it's been fake this whole time. Now let's real quick jump into this video. Watch this.
Are literally feeding your kids plastic glue and industrial lubricants. I'm talking about Oreos, that cream in the middle. It's not cream at all. It's rapeseed oil whipped with emulsifiers that act like edible glue holding the sludge together. And the cookie parts strip cocoa and chemical stabilizers enough to start clogging your arteries if you eat them too much. I scanned them with the Reveal It app, and it came back as 82% processed.
So ultra high processed, where more than 75% of the food is processed chemicals.
This is unbelievable.
Plastic glue, huh? How did they make it taste so good, right? Well, let's just say they know how to make it taste good and they have years of experience on making it addictive. Rapeseed oil and emulsifiers, huh? Did you know that same rapeseed oil is used in biodiesel for diesel engines? And right here I'm reading emulsifiers have been linked to gut inflammation and potential metabolic issues. And yet it's right there in your Oreo cookie. So listen to this. Your gut health, your bacteria. Some of you may already know this. This is the foundation of your overall health for your entire body. Right here it says, over time, regular intake of emulsifiers and processed oils has been linked in some studies to gut inflammation, possible disruptions of gut bacteria, and increased risks of metabolic disorders. Some research also suggests it links to weight gain. Any of you guys feeling that? Put it down in the comments. Insulin resistance, and even low-grade inflammation throughout the body. Think about the people that have definitely put down some Oreo cookies.
So yeah, eating Oreos is linked to whole body inflammation, insulin resistance, weight gain, diabetes, and you know what else them Oreos gonna be linked to? That RFID microchip, the mark of the beast. Why? Because everybody got some kind of chemical dependency on these various foods. That when they bring about the food shortage and the famine and your access to food is restricted and it's based upon you getting microchipped because of your addiction to Oreos or honey buns or Sprite, whatever else, man, you're gonna go get that microchip.
Put in the comments, have you guys been someone?
But let's jump ahead in this video just a little bit. Then we're going to continue.
Stain your memory on Oreo cookies. Have you ever seen an Oreo under a torch? I'm not talking about a lighter. I'm talking about a torch for 30 seconds. You won't believe what happens or what doesn't happen.
0.1 second. 0.5 second. 1 second. 3 second. 5 second. 30 second.
People come to us and they're
This nigga needs that damn commercials.
but traditional
The Oreo cookie is not burning. It's all the wood that is turned to coals around the Oreo cookie that is actually creating flame. Nothing happens to the Oreo cookie under a torch for I don't know how long. Still think it's real food? Now I want to show you the commercial that they should be playing on.
Okay, so we're going to jump ahead a little more.
Guys, the commercial they should be showing everyone.
Here's the ingredient list, and none of them are good, but as you can see here, there's a lot of engineered chemicals, including fake sugars that are alcohol-based, which is why they don't ignite easily. If they don't burn when hit with a blowtorch, what does this mean for your digestion? Well, some studies show that it alters your gut bacteria, impairs glucose tolerance, and also when heated, it can break down into a chlorinated byproduct. Yum. These cookies pass the safety test, but of course, those only go over short-term toxicity and acute poisoning. It doesn't really look at the long-term effects.
Now I'm going to show you guys this commercial. They should be.
Okay, so yeah, we went over the effects, you know, of long-term Oreo consumption and just long-term consumption of these ultra-high processed foods. And you can add the RFID microchip, which is the mark of the beast, to long-term effects. Because it's all going to come down to the hour of temptation. Everything coming down to that. And those who had a lifetime of eating this stuff, they never broke away from it, they're going to get microchipped. So that's the first video. And I think this one is worse. So check this out. This is from the brother GMS Must Endure 144K Bye. Now check this out.
Devil, man.
He turned a pile of unwanted animal bones into a business worth hundreds of millions.
Man, let me take this back real quick. Trying to zoom in as much as I can.
He turned a pile of unwanted animal bones into a business worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
What the
The gray
fuck?
bone paste gets squeezed out of the machine. and
This
with
is
just a
crazy
touch of
work.
coloring, it comes back out as soft, pink meat. These meat pastes are pushed straight into the sausage stuffer.
See what
The
I'm
machine
saying?
spins at high speed, pumping the bone paste into the casing, turning it into perfect, identical sausages
What
within seconds.
the fuck?
Smooth, shiny, flawless. You'd never guess what they're
All
made of,
right.
but to make
If, in case we didn't hear, the stuff they grinding up is animal bones. And they grind up the animal bones into like a paste. Then with that animal bone paste, they add food coloring to make it appear pink. That's where hot dogs come from. But we gonna watch it again since it's short.
Come on, man. We need the Lord to step in and destroy this devil, man.
He turned a pile of unwanted animal bones into a business worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
What the
The gray
fuck?
bone paste gets squeezed out of the machine. and
This
with
is
just a touch
crazy
of
work.
coloring, it comes back out as soft, pink meat. These meat pastes are pushed straight into the sausage stuffer.
See what
The
I'm
machine
saying?
spins at high speed, pumping the bone paste into the casing, turning it into perfect, identical sausages
What
within seconds.
the fuck?
Smooth, shiny, flawless. You'd never guess what they're
All
made of,
right.
but to make it sell even better, he takes it a step further. adding
Watch
just a
this
tiny
part,
bit of
though.
beef. Enough to improve the texture and enough to make the name sound premium.
Look at
Then the
that.
mixture gets pressed into flat, uniform burger patties. To make them look even more realistic, each patty is branded with perfect grill marks. Straight, even, identical. As if it just came off a hot iron grill.
That is
Finally,
wild.
they're packed, boxed, and shipped to restaurants everywhere. Add some lettuce,
can't do it.
sauce, and ketchup.
I
and it
can't
lands
do
right
it.
on your
I
dinner plate.
cannot
So
do
if one
it,
day the
man.
meat you're eating looks the same, tastes the same, but isn't really meat anymore, would you still eat it?
All right, so you
So yeah, again, these foods are highly processed for the toxins and chemicals and not real food. So with the Oreo, which is pretty much plastic and sludge, then hot dog and burger, and your processed meats is grounded up animal bones. But now we're gonna jump here. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 4, verse 13. Boop. And check this out. And the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them. So in these last days, we will eat our bread defiled. Bread is a broad term for food. So pretty much in the last days, our food would be defiled. Now, we're going to look up this word defiled in Hebrew to see what it means. I mean, we got an idea of what it means, but defiled is H2931. Look what it says down here, polluted. So our food would be polluted among the Gentiles. And we should already know what it means when something is polluted, but we're going to get it anyway. Polluted, it says to contaminate with harmful, poisonous substances. So our food will be contaminated with harmful, poisonous toxins in the last days. And we also going to jump here to the book of 2 Kings, 4 and 38. And Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth in the land, which is a famine. And the sons of the prophets were sitting before him. And he said unto his servants, set on the great pot, and sieve pottage for the sons of the prophets. So they whipping up a stew. Goes on to say, and one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered thereof wild gourds in his lap full, and came and shred them into the pot of pottage, for they knew them not. So they didn't know what was in the pot. So they poured out for the men to eat. And it came to pass, as they were eating of the pottage, that they cried out, and said, O thou man of God, there is death in the pot. And they could not eat thereof. When the story play out, the pottage was good to eat. But when you read this, it says, he shred them and put them in the pottage, for they knew them not. They said it was death in the pot because they didn't know what was in it. And we got to have that same mindset. If you don't know what's in the ingredients list, you need to look at it like that's death in the pot. That's death in the plastic wrapper. You know, that's death in the box. You got to look at it as death because that's what it leads to. Not to mention chemical dependencies, addictions, which is going to cause a lot of people to get the mark of the beast. So these processed foods not only leads to death, you know, in the physical sense, it'll lead to the second death, which is the lake of fire, if you get the RFID microchip. So that's what's sold in the stores. It's grocery stores and aisles and shelves full of death. And that's how we should look at this stuff. But that's why Sirach 12 and 10 say, never trust thy enemy. Now, we're going to jump here real quick. And then we're going to get into the AI. It's going to get real interesting. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 16. And he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in the right hand. This is the mark in the right hand, the RFID microchip. To be a digital wallet, digital ID, digital key, and everything else. And a tracking device. That's the mark in the right hand, and this is the mark in the forehead. The different brain chips, Neuralink being one of many examples. But the point is, when it says he causeth everybody to get this mark, when you look into this word causeth in the Greek and get similar words, it pretty much means to mandate, to force, by law, with penalty. So the order is going to come from the government, you know, to cause everybody to mandate, to require that everybody gets marked. They get microchipped. Now, the reason that people accept the microchip and go get it, the reasoning behind it is going to differ from person to person. Some people might get it because they don't want to see their wife or their kids or their family starve. Some people may get it out of fear. And some people gonna get it because they got a chemical food addiction. They addicted to the Oreos. They addicted to the bone meat and the hot dogs. They addicted to the honey buns, the Takis, the Sprite, the Lucky Charms, the honey buns, the French fries, the McDonald's. So the mandate is gonna come upon all the people, but the reason the people go and get the microchip, the reason they go to the chipping stations is gonna differ. A lot of people gonna have the same reasons though. But the point is, something gonna be going on in their brain. And for people who eat these diets high in ultra processed foods, we know why they gonna get it. They not able to fast. they're not able to go without eating. They got to get that quick fix. So now we're going to get into these AI. So I asked the question. Let me see. It says, I asked, AI, do processed foods lead to chemical dependency? Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. And it says, research suggests that ultra-processed foods, such as sugary drinks, salty snacks, and fast food, can indeed trigger patterns of chemical dependency and addiction-like behaviors. So chemical dependency and addiction-like behaviors. Look at this. They trigger a loss of control, where individuals find it difficult to cut down even when facing health risks like diabetes. So you know something bad for you, but you can't put it down. That's in addiction-like behavior. And look at this. Researchers argue that highly processed foods meet the same scientific criteria used to identify tobacco as an addictive substance. So a lot of these foods should really come with warning labels. These foods can alter mood and change brain chemistry with a magnitude similar to nicotine. So these foods can even be more addicting than cigarettes, which you can Google this. The more addictive substance on the planet is white sugar, which is in a lot of these processed foods. They can trigger strong urges and withdrawal-like symptoms, such as irritability, headaches, when consumption is reduced. See that? So people gonna be having Snicker, hot Cheeto, chicken nugget withdrawals, and they're gonna go get that microchip. Check this out. Dopamine surges. Now it gets into the biological mechanisms of why these high processed foods are addicting. Dopamine surges. Ultra processed foods causes a rapid release of dopamine. That's a neurotransmitter that's released from the brain when you experience pleasure. It says in the brain's reward system, similar to the response seen with alcohol or cocaine. So these foods is the equivalent of snorting cocaine, as far as how addictive they can be and how it affects and alters your brain chemistry. Check this out, brain hijacking. What does it mean to hijack something? We know what it means, but let me see if I can get something real quick. Because that's what these foods are intended to do, to hijack the people mentally. Hijack, unlawfully seize, to unlawfully take something, to steal goods, to take over. So what does it say? Brain hijacking. So with these foods, they want to take over your brain. They want to take over your thought process. Okay, that's probably about it there, but let's get some more. So more withdrawal symptoms, irritability, headaches, we got that. And it says sadness when trying to stop eating these foods. And these are comfort foods as well. People eat them when they catching hell. Chips, pizza, ice cream are highly addictive, worse than cocaine. Look, while whole foods like fruits, vegetables, and beans are not usually associated with these addictive qualities. So we proved the point that these foods lead to chemical dependency. They alter your brain chemistry and your physiology. Now, to the next question. Do people with a, let me make this bigger. Check this out. Do people with a diet, I worded it kind of funny. Do people with a diet high in processed foods have a harder time fasting for prolonged periods than people with a more natural, well-balanced diet? And what it say? Yes, people with a diet high in processed foods typically find prolonged fasting significantly more difficult. So pretty much these people can't fast. They're not capable of it. Ultra processed foods are engineered to be hyper palatable, which can disrupt the body's natural hunger and satiety signaling. Okay, let's get a few things here. A diet heavy in processed items can make fasting harder due to several physiological factors. Blood sugar instability, high glycemic processed foods cause rapid spikes and crashes in blood sugar, leading to intense hunger, irritability, and energy crashes shortly after eating. So you eat this stuff, blood sugar go way up, and then it goes way down. So people get irritable, they get sad, they get violent shortly after eating. So these people are not built for a fast mentally, the way that their brain chemistry works, the way that their physiology works because of what they eat. They're not going to be built for a famine, built for any kind of fast. So they're going to get that microchip. Hormonal disruption. This is a good one. Ultra-processed foods are linked to higher insulin levels and insulin resistance. Pretty much insulin, it goes into your cells and breaks down stored carbs and fat. So that while you're fasting, your body still has a process to release stored energy. But if you're insulin resistant, your insulin is not going to work. It says, which can interfere with the body's ability to efficiently switch from burning glucose to burning stored fat. So when you're in a fasted state, your body switches to burning fat. But if you're insulin resistant and your body's not able to burn fat, you have no supply of energy in the fasted state. So what does that lead to? Well, the RFID microchip. Reduce, I forgot how to say this word. Anyways, is you feeling satisfied after eating. Reduce satisfaction after eating because processed foods often lack fiber, protein. They are digested quickly. See that? So you're eating some orange chicken from Panda Express, which ain't real chicken. You're eating the bone meat from the hot dogs. Cereals, high processed foods. There's no fiber, no protein, so your body burns through that food quickly. That's why you're hungry 30 minutes to an hour later, compared to people who eat beans, rice, salads, nuts and seeds, real meat. It says, look, because processed foods often lack fiber and protein, they are digested quickly, leaving you feeling hungry again much faster than a balanced meal would. And it goes on to say, brain reward activation. These foods stimulate the brain's reward centers, that dopamine, creating strong cravings for sugar and salt that can become overwhelming during a fasting window. So the hour of temptation, when your access to food is restricted, people's cravings are going to become overwhelming, and they're going to walk their butt to the chipping stations. Gut health impact. Diet low in fiber can alter the gut microbiome and weaken the intestinal barrier, potentially increasing inflammation and making the physical sensation of fasting more uncomfortable. So if they forced to go into a fast after eating high processed foods, the fast is more uncomfortable. And some experience I got with fasting, since I do it, regularly, if I treat myself to a bunch of good food, the fast is harder. But if I'm eating only beans and rice, salads, nuts and seeds, oats, wheat, the fast, is way easier. In a cheat meal for me, a cheat day for me, I just include meat in whatever I'm eating. So, through my regular work week, I'm vegan, no meat, no dairy. But on the weekend, I eat meat, maybe 2 or 3 days on the weekend. Then it's back to being vegan. But fasting after eating meat versus fasting after being vegan, even that is totally different. So imagine fasting after eating some Honey Nut Cheerios or some Hot Cheetos or whatever people be eating these days. It's pretty much impossible. Now, last question. Look at this. Get this real quick. In contrast, a balanced diet of whole foods provide fiber and nutrients necessary to improve metabolic flexibility, making a transition into a fasted state much smoother. And this is why, the Lord recommend we fast. Not only, afflicting the soul, killing the flesh, but that's going to be very beneficial in the hour of temptation. When everybody got all kind of urges and cravings that's overwhelming, they can't control, they losing their mind. Now look at this last question. Damn. I'm trying to see my question. Anyway, so what I asked, are people who are on a high processed food diet easier to manipulate due to their cravings? Yes, research indicates that a diet high in ultra processed foods can make individuals more susceptible to certain forms of manipulation. So people who eat a diet high in processed foods can be more easily manipulated. It says this susceptibility stems from how these foods hijack the brain's reward and decision-making systems. So these foods can alter your decision-making. Look at this, hijack decision-making. How high processed foods can impact, your decision-making. High consumption of ultra-processed foods is linked to a 25% faster decline in executive function, which includes judgment, planning, and self-control. So you lose 25% of your ability to make decisions. You lose 25% of your ability to exhibit self-control or critical thinking if you're addicted to high processed foods. fMRI scans show that individuals with severe processed food addiction have lower activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for rational decision making, making it harder to resist immediate rewards or cravings. So people can't even think straight if they eat a diet high in processed foods. Meaning what? You're gonna go get that microchip. Look at this. Increased impulsivity. A high-fat, high-sugar diet can induce a cycle of increased impulsivity, where the physiological response to these foods reduce a person's ability to exert willpower. So if you lose willpower, that means whoever got the food that you crave, that means they got control over you. You get a power to them, leading to more frequent reactive choices rather than intentional ones. So you don't make intentional choices, they're reactive. Meaning what? You're going to get the RFID microchip. Look at this. Strategic engineering. Large food corporations intentionally design ultra-processed foods to be hyper-palatable, exploiting human hedonistic tendencies to create dependencies. So they engineer, process these foods in a way that creates an addiction, a chemical addiction. These formulas are engineered to deliver a dopamine spike, which can be addicted, to the level of, cigarettes or crack cocaine. Diets high in ultra-processed foods are associated with higher risk of anxiety and depression. So these people are not going to be prepared for the hour of temptation when your access to everything is cut off. Because they're addicted to these foods, these people are going to have a harder time mentally just dealing with these times of trouble, even before the famine kick in. So check this out. These scientific articles explore how ultra-processed foods are intentionally engineered to exploit and increase vulnerability to manipulation and mental health issues. So back to how we started off the lesson. I was thinking, why are all these foods highly processed, engineered with all these toxic chemicals? Well, I understand that this leads to a chemical dependency and addiction. People can't function without these chemicals. It's not the food they crave, but the chemicals in these foods. It alters their physiology and their brain chemistry. They physically and mentally not capable of fasting, going without these foods. So when the hour of temptation come, and he calls all, both small, great, rich, and poor, free and bond to receive a mark in their right hand and in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, say if he that had the mark. Well, you pretty much not going to have no access to food unless you get the mark. And people with these urges and these cravings they can't control, even here, it tells you that people who eat a diet high in processed foods, they have trouble fasting. People who eat a diet high in processed foods are easier to manipulate and control because of their cravings. And it even tells you here that these foods, they hijack your decision making. That you have a 25% decline in judgment and self-control in making decisions. So people literally can't think without these foods. And if you can't think for yourself, you can't think rationally, you can't exhibit, good judgment, you lose willpower, they're going to go get that microchip. So everybody you see in the McDonald's lines, Jack in the Box, Whataburger, all up and down Walmart, Kroger, Sam's, getting all this BS food, all them people gonna be in them lines to be microchipped. Most people got some kind of food addiction, chemical food addiction. And Esau gonna exploit that in his hour of temptation. So I guess that was it, Lord. But that was informative, edifying. Till next time, Shalom.